If you're law enforcement, stop and listen to me right now. If you're a business owner or an HOA, please stop and listen to me right now. If you're just listening to the audio, do yourself a favor and watch the YouTube version of this episode to get a visual of what I'm about to tell you. I want to tell you guys about Insight LPR. It's a license plate reader. If your agency, community, or business is looking to invest in LPR to help solve and deter crime or to make your community safer, Insight LPR has my vote of confidence. I've met with their team. They know their LPRs, guys. They're the real deal. They bring over 75 years of collective experience to building LPR cameras and the software that supports communities across the country. The other thing I really like about this team is how much they listen to law enforcement. They understand the importance of working together with law enforcement and getting their input as they build and innovate products and their service to match the needs of law enforcement. In other words, when I complain or have suggestions to make their damn camera better, they actually do it. The Insight LPR team is extremely passionate and takes pride in their product development, which makes their cameras some of the most durable cameras in the market. For the gear nerds out there, what that means is this stuff's made of military grade aluminum and is nitrogen purged, whatever that means. This design makes the cameras rugged and able to withstand harsh weather elements. Here's the big selling point for me. Their nighttime scan accuracy is higher than most of the leading competitors. In my opinion, this is what sets them apart. As we know, the majority of crimes occur at night, so it's critical to have high scan accuracy at night. Insight's cameras check the box with the nighttime plate read accuracy greater than 96%. 96%, guys. That's pretty freaking high. If your community is looking to invest in LPR technology, reach out to one of their experts today or reach out to me. Tell them 2 Cops, 1 Donut sent you. Coming up next on 2 Cops, 1 Donut.
When I was working my last year on literally about every month, if not twice a month, I'd have to pull my patrol car over, call for EMS to come and drag me out of my car. I'd just start to get tunnel vision. The heart would start to race and just feel like I was dying. I know now I was having like panic attacks. Um, so finally, my chief came to me. He's like, "Hey, I think it's time for you to talk to your pension board and look at early retirement for your heart issues." Um, so I didn't want to. I fought it. I mean, I fought that chief on to the next chief, and he ended up coming to me saying the same thing, like, "Dude, you're going to get somebody killed or yourself killed," which I was. I mean, that's what would have happened. They were exactly right.
All right, welcome back to Cops One Donut. I am your host, Eric Levine, and today I have with me the 1042 Project. I've got both Dan and Christina Defenbaugh. Am I saying that right?
Yeah,
Yep,
All right, how are you guys doing today?
we were doing good, man.
doing great. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, we're excited to chat with you, and I love watching your videos. And I love what you're doing. I really appreciate what you're doing, giving people a platform, man. That's what this world needs is a platform for people to be able to speak open and honest and not be canceled. So I appreciate what you're doing.
I wholeheartly agree, and I still walk that very fine line to make sure I don't say anything dumb
Right.
to get fired. So, us as first responders know that as much as we love our freedom of speech, it does come at a cost when you decide to be a public servant.
That's right.
So,
Yep.
with that said, sir, I heard about you through 2 people actually, Michael Segru and Keith Hanks, a firefighter. So shout out Keith.
What's up, Keith?
Yeah, and he was like, "Man, you might want to check these guys out. I'll have them reach out to you." And then you guys did. You reached out, and we played a little bit of networking patty cake, and then we finally got this going. But for those listening to this episode, if you're wondering what this episode is going to be about, it's specifically going to be about the 1042 Project and first responder suicide, addiction, things of that nature. So stay tuned if that's what you want to listen to. If not, catch the next podcast. So because my podcasts tend to run 2-3 hours long, I like to let people know up front exactly what they're getting so they can be like, okay, I'll listen to this one, or they'll be like, no, not this time. So that was a suggestion from a buddy. He's like, man, your podcasts are really long and it takes a while for you to get to the point. So I was like, I wish I knew up front what it was. I was like, thanks, bud.
You got a little
So
feedback.
Yeah, and he's not wrong. I agree with what he's saying. So before we do that, I like to do my little humanizing portion. I want people to either fall in love with you or hate your guts or whatever it is, but I like them to get to know y'all before we just jump into a story and they've got really no emotional attachment to the people that are talking. And that's part of the problem with first responders is we're as far as cops go, we're the front line of enforcing the law. So we're already there on your worst day most of the time for most people. If you're an ambulance person, you're there at a person's worst moment, safety wise. If you're a firefighter, you're there to feed them or play video games. So, it's that is the lifestyle that we have, and we just gotta accept the consequences of our actions sometimes. But I love you, FD. So first, ladies first, Christina, I want to go with you first. Where are you from? What what's your education level? And how did you get involved with 1042? What led you to that path?
So I'm actually from Osceola, Iowa. It's a really small town south of Des Moines in Iowa. Nothing super exciting or anything like that. And my education level, so I have a bachelor's degree in psychology. And as far as 1042 project, I came to be involved in that because, quite frankly, because of Daniel and his journey and just things that have occurred with his basically PTSD, his healing process, and that's really how 1042 project came to be. Was really just filling a need that he can relate to because he went through it. And with my background in psychology, I was able to, I think, be a really good partner for him in that. And that's my passion anyway, is just helping people, especially hurting people. That's where the soft spot in my heart is. I just want to help people, and then especially because Daniel was a first responder and struggled with PTSD, then that's just really special and close to my heart. And so I love what I get to do. I love being able to talk to people and hear their stories and help them.
How long were y'all like when did the relationship start?
So, it started in 2019, um, and but, like, the journey to 1042 project, I guess looking back, it was pretty fast.
It was very fast.
It didn't feel fast at the time, though, like, I'll say that. And, um, we didn't like, I didn't know at first that he had PTSD, so that we kinda had, like, that journey of, like, figuring it out. I don't think, honestly, he knew that I mean, would you say that you really knew that you were still struggling with it?
Yeah, but I thought I had suppressed it and hidden it long enough that I was good
Right,
at hiding it, so but it
right.
comes out eventually, obviously.
Yeah, I don't think you knew all the way really either.
No, I've learned a lot about my mental health just in this
Yeah.
journey since 2020,
Yeah,
and 2020 is when we got married, actually. We haven't been married very very long.
yeah,
That's actually the same year that 1042 started.
yeah.
I would say that's probably a blessing in disguise because I do know other officers and other first responders that do have a psychology significant other, that degree and that career path. And it's like being married to a nurse. Like the last thing your nurse wife wants to do is take care of, sickly husband, And I'm curious if that would be the same type of thing when it comes to, if you're a psychologist and that's your field and everything like that. And you're evaluating people all day. The last thing you want to do is work and it be on your husband. Like you're like, dude, just take the trash out. I don't want to Freudian slip on you right now. But you having a newer relationship, I think that would be able to separate you enough to kind of look at it objectively and help him. You guys probably I'm a believer everything happens for a reason, and the timing it sounds like of you two getting together. I
Oh,
think
yeah.
that I think you that might have been what worked out to get this going successfully already.
Yes, I was yeah. I mean,
The timing was impeccable. And I'll say honestly, probably poor Daniel, because I really enjoy psychoanalyzing him.
He's
So
like, damn it.
yeah, like, maybe he drew the short stick there. I enjoy that in the sense that I feel like there's so much benefit that can come from, just, I don't know, like analyzing behavior and patterns and, causes to things and try to implementing good things, to bring about healing and change and stuff. And so I'm the one that's like, hey, I noticed this. Let's talk about it.
Yeah,
Let's work on this. Let's address this. And that's what I think is fun. And so, I mean, I think it's really worked out well for us. That's my
Okay.
opinion anyway.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
Uh,
I didn't start. I was still really struggling when we first started dating, and really, it was through her. I always talk about breaking that one chain. PTSD and mental health is like carrying just a bunch of chains around. You're just constantly adding chains as you do your career. And we're always talking about the first chain, how you break that first lock to where you can start to get yourself recovered, so you can start to the journey process. And it's always that one person. It's that one person that you can finally tell for the first time if you've never told anybody. And that's what she was to me. She was the very first person. I was diagnosed back in 2014. That's a long time of hiding it, and I did not process it. But when I met her, she in such a natural way, not in a therapist way, but in a natural way, just got me to number one admit to her that yes, I do have PTSD, and I didn't tell you about it. And but then she has started helping me with the process of doing that. So yes, us coming together at that time, because honestly, Eric, I was at that time I was planning my suicide pretty much every day. I mean, I was living to die, if that makes any sense. Um,
yeah.
so when we started dating, man, she started to just peel that onion and got me to now I'm willing to talk about it on not just to other people, but on camera. And that all started with her because she allowed me to a safe place for me to allow that first chain to be unlocked. Once that was unlocked, and I told her, and then I was able to talk to my family members about it. And but it all started with her and that one lock. So yeah,
Very nice. I'm not intentionally cutting you out here, Dan, but I I think she's a very important element of this because you and I know as first responders that, and all the first responders that are going to listen to this, they're going to know. I don't want to say they're going to know exactly how to walk in your shoes or the journey that you've taken, but we've all got something kind of similar. Even myself, I don't consider myself somebody that suffers through any sort of extreme PTSD, but there are things that trigger me. Um, and I've talked about this on the show before. There's a Netflix show um, of a lady that goes through domestic violence. And I have never literally ever even thought about any of the domestic violence calls I've taken over the 17 years of law enforcement. Um, but as I'm watching this show, like I'm just breaking down. Like I'm trying to like be quiet about it. And me and my wife are watching this new show and um it was just triggering me. Like this trigger came out of nowhere and I'm seeing what this lady's going through and whoever the writers are were so damn accurate at real life how I mean the reaction of the actors and everything and
Mhm.
it just hit me in a way and I'm like, "Oh my god, what is wrong with me?" And that's the first time in my life and we're talking less than a year ago that I realized there's stuff going on that I'm just not aware of but it's not it's more of a I felt bad for the people that I've had to help, not anything that's self for me.
right.
Um, but the point I'm trying to get to, Dan, is that like with you, a lot of these first responders are going to sympathize and empathize and understand your journey. What they're not going to know and what can help a lot of couples and other significant others is her. What she saw in you, the things that she started to notice. What was the small triggers? What were the things as a psychologist that you were like, okay, there's more to this and I need to start helping him. So that's really what I want to dig into right now.
Mhm. Yeah.
So,
So I do want to clarify I'm not like a certified psychologist. I just have a degree in psychology.
yes, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to call you a
No, no,
psychologist.
that's
Yeah.
okay. I just didn't want anybody to be like, "Oh, she's lying." But
She plays one at home, so
Right,
that's
yeah.
true, actually. That's true. I do definitely.
She's got the
Um,
coat.
yeah, I need to get one. That's a good idea.
Yeah, get a lab coat.
I'm interested to see how you're gonna answer this question because it's funny you mentioned Netflix because
Yeah. Yeah, it was a Netflix show that triggered Daniel's, panic attack that sent him to the emergency room. We thought he was having, like, a heart episode, and it was actually just a severe panic attack, which I knew, I didn't know until we got to the hospital. I had my suspicions, but the very first things that I noticed, like in the very beginning, was his hypervigilance for sure. That was what stuck out to me the most. Just how much, even at home, if the dishwasher made a funny sound, but it was unexpected, and he just his whole body reacted to it, and he would just like look around, like, oh my gosh, what was that? Um, and especially going places, restaurants, which I think is probably pretty typical for first responders, probably especially police officers. But I didn't have any previous experience with, law enforcement or first responders. So to me, that was definitely like most people don't do that, and it's all the time for him. So I was just like, okay, that's interesting. And then he talked about um, the way that he struggled to sleep, and he struggled to get restful sleep, and he would have nightmares and night terrors. And so those were some of the things. And when we would just drive around town, because we still live in the town that he worked in, and, as things progressed anyway, I noticed that he would act different in different places. Sometimes he would say something, sometimes he wouldn't, but I could tell that he would be, I guess, maybe preoccupied, I guess. Maybe, like, when we were driving by a place, like, eventually you would say, "Oh," like, a critical incident happened here, and kind of start to talk about it, but he wouldn't really talk about it at first. It was mainly the body language, I guess. His body just told the story with, the hypervigilance and then the nightmares and night terrors. So he was unintentionally communicating things, I would say, for sure. And I did know about his history with substance abuse, so that was also a contributing factor. And then what really sold it though was when I was piecing things together, and I was like, "Hey, have you ever looked into, like, maybe you have PTSD?" Because we hadn't talked about it yet. And his response was so telling. He's like, "No, no, I have that taken care of." And I was just like, "Okay." So I knew in that moment, like, externally, right, or superficially, it was, kind of like it was a defense mechanism. It came off kind of defensive, but I could tell that it wasn't out of anger. I could tell that really what was underneath that was fear. And so I kind of felt bad for him because I could tell it was something that he didn't have a handle on, and he wasn't even really sure what to do with it. So in that moment, then I knew for sure that he has PTSD. Well, I guess I shouldn't say like I didn't diagnose him, but based on what I was seeing, I was like, okay, he's got something he's working through. But I could also tell he wasn't comfortable talking about it. Based on that response, I knew that it was a sensitive subject for him. So
Yeah.
I didn't want to push it and and push him, I guess, into a place where he felt like he needed to be more defensive. So I kind of backtracked a little bit and just recognized that, okay, this is a sensitive thing for him. And I felt like, he was so unsure. So I wanted to make our relationship be a place of safety and stability. And I wanted to, like, without, using words and directly saying, like, "I wanna teach you that I'm safe," I just used our interactions to make sure that he felt safe when he was talking about anything with me. So, I was very excited the first time he finally, like, brought up a story or said something about, like, something that he was struggling with, and I was very intentional about listening to him and letting him tell me how he felt, and I did not return any judgment or anything like that. I just accepted it, like, that's valid, that, that's real, and I made sure that no matter what difficult thing he was sharing with me, I wasn't like I didn't give him a big, reaction, I guess, you know what I mean? I wanted it to feel very safe and calm so that way he knew that no matter what he was telling me or what he wanted to share, it was gonna be okay. And I wanted to hear everything that he had to say. I wanted to hear everything that he was feeling and everything he was thinking. And I just wanted him to feel that I just want to be his partner with him in all of that.
How long into this to your relationship before you worked up the courage to say something? And like, what was that moment like where you're finally like, I'm gonna kind of address this? Like, I know that's got to be ballsy. Like, I get anxiety thinking about it because I know what it's like just even with my own partner, like trying to have those conversations.
Yeah, for me, there was no easing into it. Again, we were watching a Netflix show. I work narcotics. I was a narcotics detective, and we were watching a show about narcotics called Queen of the South. I don't know why it triggered me. It's kind of funny, but we were watching Queen of the South. I went into body shakes, convulsions. She called 911. We ended up at the ER, and that's when finally started to talk about it. So I wouldn't say it was any courage moment out of me. It was a the opportunity presented itself for all the right reasons, and it opened up the dialogue. There was no more
Okay.
hiding at that. There was no more hiding it at that point. So then, she just started talking to me, and really, what she did was textbook. I mean, seriously, like, and I've told her this before. When I first started to talk to her about that, if she were reacted like, "Oh my gosh, what in the world is wrong with you?" I would have shut down, and that would have been the end of it. I would not have approached her again. I would have just held it in like I've done all these years. But man, the way she just, I don't want to say tricked me, but she
Right.
was very smooth about how she would just listen. And I didn't even realize that, heck, I've been talking for 15 minutes and she's just over there like nodding her head. And she did it textbook. And man, I'm telling you, if there's any spouses out there that want to get some advice, reach out to us.
Yeah.
She'll love to talk to you guys about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. In, you tell me what you think about this, Dan. What is going on? The sun just turned on over there.
I know it got so much brighter.
What just happened?
I
Yeah,
don't
that's
know.
what I'm saying.
Oh,
guys,
it was
you guys.
this.
Hey, folks, Eric Levine from Two Cops, One Donut. Want something better than Ring, Arlo, Brink, or any of the other quick launch home security systems? I've been having trouble with my Ring products. They don't read license plates on moving vehicles, the link doesn't connect fast enough to my phone, and I'm tired of getting notifications only to see like a glimpse of something that set it off. I was reached by a veteran-owned business called Agent Security. The owner, the staff, all veterans or former cops. They're kind of like the Chick-fil-A of customer service when it comes to security. They have a system that does everything companies like Ring do and more. They have pivoting cameras that track day or night. They can also read license plates and catch high-definition details that will lead police more effectively to catching the offender. Their mission is providing the best home security systems to their customers. All you have to do is start the conversation to protect our most valuable assets, our families. They listen to your needs and come up with perfect customized security solutions to protect what matters to you most. You can contact them by phone at 713-962-3558 or email info@agentsecurity.com or visit their website, agentsecurity.com. That's AGENTSECURITY.com. They serve the greater Houston area, North Texas, and more. Be sure to tell them that Eric Levine from Two Cops, One Donut sent you. Oh, your
What?
TV timed out? That's awesome. Oh, that's a beautiful background there.
You need to change the timeout deal.
I did.
Oh, it would can't extend it longer or not? Because is it just the screen going to sleep?
I do now. Here.
It happens. Trust me, I dealt with that on my TV for quite a long time.
I'm glad you said it because I didn't even notice it.
Yeah,
Because
you guys all.
the cannon's up here, but our screen's down here, so it does kinda make it
Uh,
hard. You're down here, but yet
yep.
we have to look up here. I need to
Yeah,
get a screen way to mount this up next to the camera.
yeah. Like for me, I have to like. Now I'm looking right at the camera. So I just kind of leave it up there and I'm staring at my screen. But yeah, you guys will get it. You guys could probably get away with just buying a backdrop.
Yeah, that's what we need to do.
Yeah. Instead, I still haven't figured out how to get mine to just stay static. Like mine has to have pictures to scroll through. Otherwise
Uh,
it times out like your else just did.
There,
So
everything got changed to never, so
we'll
there
see
you
what happens.
go.
nothing should
Well,
ever go
hey,
off ever
it's a
again.
journey. I'm willing to let you guys learn on this podcast. It's fine.
Thank you.
I'm not even gonna edit that out because I think it's
No, leave
interesting.
it.
So okay, so
Oh, yeah.
Back to the point that I was getting to, which is I don't remember. So, what were we talking about? You said
We were
that.
talking about, how she just handled it so well as far as,
Oh,
allowing me to open
right.
up, and had she
Yes.
not done that, then I would've shut her down and we wouldn't be here.
Yes. So one of the things that I did unknowingly, unintentionally, in law enforcement. My dad retired PD, same department that I'm at, and I saw the writing on the wall throughout my life. Like my mom and dad never got married, grew up in separate states actually. So for me, I noticed that all my dad's friends divorced, constantly in some sort of relationship trouble, dating one waitress after the next stripper after the next nurse. I'm sorry, nurses, I don't know what the deal is, but
Right?
it seems to
Yeah.
be a thing.
Cops and nurses, man.
Yeah. Or bartenders. And so I see that they're going like it's constant. It's always all this stuff, and they never talk. They don't tell their spouses anything. They're like, no, and they only talk with the people they work with. That's their only friends. And so I intentionally, from day one of my career, I tried to keep my friends non-cops, and I would tell my wife everything. If I had a dead baby call, I'd come home and I'd tell her, I'm like, man, I had a rough one. This is what happened. And I would ask her, like, how much of the details do you want? She'd let me know. Like, no, I want to hear it all. Just like you said, you wanted to hear it all. So she said that, I would tell her everything. I'm kind of trying, like you said, reading her face. And she just like, tells me, she's like, what are you thinking? Like, that's all she'd ask me. Like, what do you think? And I was like, it just sucks. I felt helpless. I start describing, not articulating as well as I probably could have, but at least I was getting it out. And we've done that my whole career.
That's
And
awesome.
That's
here
so
we
awesome.
are in a career, military and police work, that has a high divorce rate in both, high suicide rate in both, high substance abuse in both. Um, I I probably do drink, but I don't think I have a problem. Um, and we have a great relationship. We've been together since seventh grade.
Wow.
So
That's awesome.
yeah, so it's very uncommon for our career field. So I don't know if what the approach that I took to that is a contributing factor. I think it is. I don't know how significant, but when I hear success stories like which y'all did, you basically took the same thing that I did, in a way, or I took the same thing you did, and it creates a healthier relationship, and maybe that's why I don't have PTSD issues. I don't know.
Very
I
well
can't.
could be. I mean,
It could
that's,
be.
yeah,
Yeah.
that very well could be.
Yeah, I
But
I
do
mean,
think it's huge that you guys you established such a strong connection with each other. That's huge. And it sounds like right away she was your safe place. So you knew that when you went through a lot and you it was heavy on your heart, you had somebody to turn to, and it was your spouse, which I think is best case scenario, right? You definitely want each other to be your go-to person. And with the heavy stuff that first responders deal with, I think it's huge when there's that open line of communication between spouses. So that's awesome.
I appreciate it. All right, Dan. Let's get to the nitty gritty, sir. First off, where are you from, and what led you into that life of service?
so I'm from Newton, Iowa, which is close to Des Moines, Iowa. I lived there, and then we also lived out in San Diego for a while, and then we came back to Iowa.
Why did you
Man,
leave San Diego?
what's that?
I said, why did you leave San Diego? I heard it's beautiful.
Well, me and my brother were getting in some trouble out there, so
Uh oh.
mom, mom and stepdad packed us up, and we came back to Iowa. And it's
Uh,
probably a good thing, man, because number one, I never would have been a cop. I can promise you that. Number two, I probably wouldn't be alive. I mean, we were living wild lives.
little
And
hellions, huh?
oh
Oh,
man,
yeah.
yeah, it wasn't good. But so yeah, but I also knew all the way growing up, I always said I wanted to be a cop or a preacher. Um, so I used to go to school with a Bible and a little plastic pistol to school. So
Nice.
I always knew that's what I wanted to do. And I went when I got out of high school, I went straight to college. I just went to a 2-year tech school for police science here in Iowa, and I was actually hired at the age of 20. I When I first got hired, I actually couldn't buy my own bullets. I had to. go to Walmart and bring somebody with me to buy them because I was only 20 years old. And apparently, a badge doesn't exempt you from that. I tried using that, and the Walmart employee could have cared less. So yeah, I started pretty young, and I hate bullies. I hate people picking on people, and to me, law enforcement was a place where I could go out and make a difference, and hopefully stop some of these bullies that are, committing crimes and assaulting people and just taking advantage of just everyday citizens, man. So I was just had a passion to just go out and try to help put an end to it.
Very nice. When you were, how old were you at those times that you transitioned to California back to Iowa?
I was like 13, 14.
Okay. All right. Any law enforcement in your family at that time, or what was the draw?
There's no law enforcement, a lot of military in my family, but not law enforcement,
Okay.
and I just don't know, I just felt honestly, I think God just put it on my heart at a young age, and, it's just, it's silly now, but at the time, I used to think that law enforcement was my sole purpose on being on earth, like, I truly felt like God sent me here to be a cop, and which is silly. But now, when I went out of it, when I left in 2014, those years I went through really deep, dark places was because when I left law enforcement, man, I felt like I lost my purpose because I truly believed that was my purpose in life was to be a cop. So when that was taken away, I just felt like there was no more reason to really even live anymore. Even though I had kids, man, I was in such a dark place, addicted to pain pills, alcohol. I didn't even feel worthy to be their dad. Um,
S-
so yeah.
So so as you get into your 20 and you get into your career, what was your path? Like did like, off some officers like I know I'm going to be a canine officer, that's what I want to do, or I know I'm going to be a SWAT guy, that's what I want to do. Did you have an idea of what you wanted to go after, and what was that path that you did take?
Yeah, so the sole purpose, if it wasn't for working narcotics, I may not have been a cop. I wanted to work narcotics. That was my passion. And when I first got hired, I worked patrol for only 2.5 years before I got promoted to detective of the narcotics branch of our PD. And we're a seven count. Well, at the time we were a 7 county drug task force. We worked out of
Woo.
we worked out of Des Moines and covered all of the central Iowa areas. So that's what I wanted. I just wanted to work narcotics, and I got to do that very young in my career, and I loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Nice. How many years do you think you spent doing narc?
Just 3 years,
Just the 3?
3 years, and then I had enough, and I was ready to come back. Just came back to patrol,
Okay.
and I
How
was kind
many
of already,
years?
I was already kind of starting to ruin myself at that point, because we did cover 7 counties. We had like 56 detectives that were narcotics. So whenever there was a murder, any big crime scene, we were just extra detectives for them. So if
Yeah.
the crime happened in a 7 county radius of Des Moines, our drug task force would get called out to a lot of those.
What
Uh,
years are we talking about?
2003 to 2006.
Okay. And the type of drugs that were going on big out there at that time, was it meth?
Yeah, in the early 2000s, man, it was all homemade meth. We have we're agriculture state. We have anhydrous all over the farm fields here where people can just go steal it. And obviously you can go to Walmart and just buy your pretty much all your supplies right there. All they need is the anhydrous ammonia. So all we were doing basically back then was just doing meth lab after meth lab after meth lab. We were doing
Yeah.
three to four a day sometimes.
I was stationed in Montana up at Great Falls, and we went on a hunting trip and we stumbled across the little shack out in the woods that was it was no longer in use, but you all the signs and symptoms were there of a old meth lab, and that it's very prominent up in that side of the country. And like you said, those were the volatile ones. That's not even the Yeah, those are the ones that would explode and kill you back in the day.
Yes,
Yeah.
very violent, very dull to pain. I
Yeah.
mean, you wrestle with them and, man, they could just keep going.
Yeah. So as you get going in that career, you said that's when the substance abuse started to kick in. What were some of the triggers for you? Can you pinpoint any one situation, or is it just the job itself?
Yeah, a lot of people ask that. a lot of officers have been involved in shootings and stuff like that. I have not. A lot of department, a lot of people are from big, huge, New York City, and they um, work narcotics. I didn't do that. I'm losing my train of thought here. We're gonna have to edit that out. What was the question?
It's
What
all
was the
right.
question? There was something moving outside my house, so I was looking.
It's funny you say that. My Ring doorbell went off at the same exact time.
So I'm like, what? Um, but what was I saying?
I was asking triggers.
Oh, um, so there really wasn't one. There wasn't one big call that caused my mental health issues. I mean, there were some very bad calls I went on. One was a friend of mine who was a firefighter. He was a firefighter in Des Moines and lived down here in Indianola, and he volunteered to work for another first responder on Christmas Day. And the next day, he was driving home, and we got called to a flipped over truck outside of town, and Dan, my buddy, was trapped underneath it,
Oh
and
no.
he died. So me and the fire chief had to go to his house and let his wife and his kids, who were all sitting around the Christmas tree waiting for him to come home. The dad wasn't coming home. Dear friends of mine, and it just that there's calls like that are, I call them, this like the sledgehammer calls, but really, man, that what really eats at you is just your routine calls. You go to a death notification, you go to a dead body call, or just some of the routine stuff.
Yeah.
To me, it was the stuff that I saw. It wasn't so much stuff that was done to me.
Mhm.
It was just the stuff I saw, man. Just doing CPR on kids, and I don't need to go through the list. You guys all know the stuff that we see, and um, but yeah, I would say mine's not like acute PTSD. Mine's cumulative and complex PTSD. Um, so yeah,
Well, I'm glad you said that word accumulative. Like that's a newer key term I think that's starting to get more widely accepted across first responders as because everybody wants to pinpoint. Everybody wants to go, oh, that was the event that did it. I think
yeah,
in my own case, like the domestic thing that I was telling you about, that had to have been an accumulative thing because my wife, one of her things she's told, I've heard her talking to other people like Eric's relaxed, like that's his style. He's a chill guy. Um, but I have figured I must have, like, we're talking about hypervigilance. Like I can sit down in a restaurant. I've already, maybe subconsciously, maybe it is conscious. I've already positioned myself well. I have looked at everybody's waistbands. I know exactly where the entrance and exits are. I've looked at tattoos. I've analyzed every single person in there, and I never stop. But I do appear relaxed, and I am relaxed in my, like, for me, like, I don't ever truly know what relaxed is until my toes are in the sand and I've been there for a couple days. Then my body all of a sudden, that's when I realize what true relaxation is on vacation out of the country. Like, we're beach nerds. So I should say we're island nerds. We go to the Bahamas every year. So I that's when I know. That's when I'm in that actual relaxed state and I'm snorkeling and staring at a bunch of fish. I don't know what they're called, and it's it's weird. But it's a hypervigilant state, and I think a lot of officers don't even realize they're in it and until they stop to either think about it, or somebody else like me. That's one of the things I like about this podcast. I'm like, well, when you're at a restaurant, do you do this? Do you put, we all know the common thing. You put your back to the wall and you always have your gun on you. Those are the two common things. But then when I start to point out, I'm like, did you look at everybody's hands when you walked in? Did you look at their waistbands? Did you look for things that are protruding? Did you identify tattoos that are gang related or jail related? Did you look at those things? And they're like, oh shit, yeah, I did. I'm like, yeah, bitch, you hypervigilant as fuck. Like, yeah. I was like, you don't realize you are. You gotta relax, man. So, but this is the type of talks we need. We need to have a sense of humor about it and point it out and shed perspective, but let people know, like, dude, like, we're all doing it. We all have it. It's a first responder thing. It's an accumulative thing, but you have to talk about it. You have to acknowledge it. You have to learn that you have it. not PTSD necessarily, but you need to learn that you have a hypervigilance about you. And
Yep.
it isn't just cops, it's firefighters, it's ambulance people. I mean, you talk to a nurse and they're constantly like looking around, making sure everybody's at a homeostasis pattern, and rather than some sort of medical issue. So
Yes.
it's rampant, and these talks are important. So for me, for you to bring up a cumulative, that's huge. And you kind of mentioned the chains earlier, and it really is. It just, you never know when that next event's going to be the straw that breaks the back. You know what I mean? So I, I
Yeah.
I'm I digress. I'm happy you said a cumulative. Let me just put it that way.
Yeah, let's go more about that. Let's dig a little deeper on that because I think that's where a lot of first responders, man, that's where they get stuck because we compare our trauma instead of just dealing with our trauma is affecting me in this way. We're so worried about, at least I know I used to be. I was like, there's no way I can be suffering from PTSD. I'm from Indianola, Iowa. Like, there's more hogs here than there is people. Like, small town, small town. But if somebody like me from small town Iowa can can get to a point of addictions and suicide attempts, and then everybody ought to be able to just take a deep breath and say, okay, if little farm boy from Iowa feels like this, then I don't have to compare myself to the New York homicide detective. I don't have to compare myself to Chicago narcotics. And then people can just start focusing on them and not about other people. But man, first responders, we're constantly comparing our trauma and using it to minimize it, not using it to, make it more. Um, I don't know what I'm trying to say.
Like
Make it
one
more,
up, like one up it.
yeah, no, it's not.
Yeah,
It's not a one up it. And a lot of people when they come up to me, they want to ask like, "What's your big story?" Or they want to tell me their big story to get like validation. I think
yeah,
that I understand their suffering, but man, we don't have to do that, guys and gals. I mean, seriously, we don't need to be comparing our trauma. If you hurt, you hurt. Damn it.
yeah.
Do not compare it with other people because otherwise you're gonna end up like me and you're gonna be headed in your car to go kill yourself and you're not gonna know why.
Yeah, and we don't think of it as suppression. We think of it as like, oh, like Officer Tommy over there, like he got in two shootings, and his partner got killed. Like, and I'm over here whining about, I saw a mom get smacked around.
Yep, that's it.
That's what we do, and we don't look at that as suppression. We look at that as like trying to be real. We're trying to be like put our stuff in this realistic bubble. And like, listen, the worst thing that happens to you is the worst thing that happens to you.
That's right.
Like, it doesn't matter what the worst thing that happened to the person next to you or the best thing, whatever it is. It's the worst thing that happened to you. If a 5-year-old gets a sucker taken away, that's the worst thing that's happened to that 5-year-old, and you wonder why they break down the way they do. It's really, I mean, it's really no different in my opinion. Now I'm not psychologically savvy, so Christina, I don't know if I'm real accurate on that side of the house, but you've got
Yeah.
more of a background. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everybody's different, which is why I know another thing that gets brought up is first responders feeling maybe a level of shame, I guess, when they have a partner that went to the same call as them and they're not impacted the same way that you are. And like I know Daniel can relate to that and having thoughts of what's wrong with me. It must just be me. Maybe I'm not tough enough or this or that, but it totally doesn't work that way. I mean, everybody has experienced so many different things, and the way that you are responding to something can be completely different from the way that the person literally standing right next to you is responding to it. And the way that you feel about it is completely legitimate. The same incident can impact you in a huge way, and that does not mean that there's anything wrong with you at all. In fact, you should absolutely recognize that and be willing to talk about that and give yourself some grace. You are human, and watching domestic violence is traumatic. Another thing I told Daniel is I think maybe in the first responder world, and I know like law enforcement officers go on traumatic call after traumatic call, just one thing that you guys see in one day, like one call would be hugely traumatic to me. Like you guys were saying, like, oh, this officer had to see this horrific thing, and I just saw a lady get slapped around. if I saw that and that was the only thing I saw, I am not okay for a very long time. Like,
Right.
just because that wasn't as bad as so and so, like, that's still a deal. That is still a huge deal. And so I think that sometimes because of, your environment and the career, you guys have this, like, not to, I don't want to make it sound mean or anything, but this unrealistic expectation of what you should be able to endure and what you should be able to handle, because that, like, even what is minor to you, really on a human level is still huge, and it's a traumatic thing. So there's no shame in in being impacted by it at all. And on the note of accumulative, I wanted to also mention Daniel and I went to a first responder conference recently, and I can't remember the name of the speaker, but they were talking about, like, the hormones that the body releases, like the chemicals that are released into the body from a stressful event, like especially a critical incident, but really, like, anything that you guys come across, honestly. It can take up to 30 hours for those to basically subside and go back down to normal. And you guys don't have that much time in
No.
between incidents, like, definitely not at all. So, and that's just biologically. So you can completely factor out, like, so and so soft or not handling it well or whatever, like, biologically. That's how that works. And one of the speakers also said, like, to your note of vacations, and I think you said like the second or third day. One of the speakers also said, when you take your first responder spouse on vacation, plan ahead to make sure that, like, you're just gonna know that their best day on vacation, where they're finally gonna be able to relax and be relaxed, is by day 2 or 3. So, like, that's a biological thing. So I thought it was interesting that you said that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm very in tune with my own body. I don't know if it's because I was educated early in my career on cortisol levels, shift difference, being in the sun versus staying in nights all the time, your diet, all that stuff. This is things that I guess I took for granted that all first responders knew, and then I learned as an academy instructor that that's not the case. So part of the science that we can go into, since you opened that door, is like biologically it's already against you, just because of, just like you said, everything we see what we see in one night. Sometimes just depends on what city you're working, is a 30-year 40-year life of somebody that had seen what you saw. So that's just a window into that, and we see 800 to 2,000 times in our career. Who knows? I don't know a number, but it's, for one person they see 5 to 10 traumatic events, and then we see hundreds and thousands. So it's you've got that, and we're talking about the 30-hour window, give or take,
Mhm.
and that's with a physically fit person.
Yeah.
That's a factor. We're talking about a physically fit person. Most of us as cops are not physically fit. Not the way we'd like to be, not the way we should be. Because we're working nights. We get to work, where hypervigilance is up there. We get home, that chemical imbalance crashes, cortisol levels shoot up through the roof, and we are lethargic. And now we start fights with our significant others because they want us to do this stuff, and they don't understand that, like, we're lazy and lethargic, and we can't even explain why. One is the shift difference. We're not getting the sleep we're supposed to get. And then on top of that, the traumatic events that we may see, that they're not affecting us consciously, but subconsciously maybe they are. And it's just, there's a lot of factors into this stuff. It goes deep, and I don't have a psychology degree, and I'm definitely not a doctor by any means, but some of the training and stuff I've heard, I've retained, and all of these things I'm mentioning, in a probably terrible manner, is exactly some of the stuff I've heard across the board. So it makes me happy when you start to kind of reaffirm the stuff that go through my head, that, like, chemically, that's something that, 30 hours, think about that. And if you don't let that subside and you go to the next trauma, the clock restarts.
Yep.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yep.
So,
And compounds.
and
Yeah.
compounds, yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Um, I want to take a side note. Okay, everybody's got their own, like, special skills and abilities. Okay, one of mine amongst my cop friends and stuff is I can point people out in a crowd that have a celebrity lookalike. And Christina, you have a celebrity lookalike,
Do
and
I?
it actually it it goes right along with exactly what we're talking about. Have you ever watched The Departed?
I don't know if I have.
Leonardo DiCaprio. He's a New York undercover, the psychologist that he.
Oh, really?
That's her.
That's you.
That's funny.
That
Holy
is you.
Should
Dan, am
put
I close?
yeah.
I
I'll have
mean
to get the thread that's thick of movie
I
twins.
don't know her name, the eye color and everything, but I'm sitting here and I'm like, why does she look so familiar? You look like the psychologist from The Departed.
Hey,
Cool.
you've never seen them both at the same time. Maybe she is.
Yeah.
Uh,
You
you
asked
got
for
that
like
right.
the preference, and I gave you a really like general answer, so I guess you found it. So
Undercover actor.
yeah.
She's been messing with me the whole time. That's hilarious. Sorry, no offense intended. But
Oh,
yeah, I'm
sorry.
sitting there. I'm just like, God, she looks so familiar. I can't figure it out. Way
That's
to go,
funny,
Dan. You got yourself a celebrity.
right?
Oh man. Okay, so you start spiraling. I hate that word. I can't say it very well. You start going downhill to say, Dan. All right. You're in the narcotics game. Um, you start to like. Why did you start? You said it was pain pills and alcohol.
Alcohol. When I was an officer, it was alcohol.
Okay.
Alcohol and alcohol. I mean, to the excess every single night, man. It would be. I mean, I'd get a big bottle of vodka and I'd drink about half of it each night. And I mean, I remember looking at the calendar and not knowing how many years I'd have to go back to find a night I went to bed sober. It was just became a ritual.
Yeah.
Go home, go home, get drunk and get drunk quickly so I can pass out and try to sleep because I don't sleep. I do now. I didn't sleep at all hardly back then.
Yeah.
Even at times where I'd go stay in a hotel, man, at 2 in the morning, the manager would be beating on my door because they thought there was like an assault going on. It was just me in my bedroom trying to sleep by myself, just having night terrors. Uh, um, so yeah, what was I talking about?
Were you was it a police cultural thing? Were you introduced into that realm because you were out with your buddies drinking, doing choir practice and stuff like that?
As far as what?
As far
Rephrase
as
that again.
like, you know how it is. You get off shift and you're like, all right, where are we drinking? Like that's a
Yeah,
common police thing. That's a culture of policing. So, do you think that that's something that stepped you into it?
yeah. I mean, I still remember when I was a young officer. I don't know.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Impact Tactical. Impact is a tactical outfitter for the men and women of our military, police, fire departments, and other public safety around the country. Impact's core beliefs is that fearless men and women protect our freedom and safety should have access to the best tactical performance apparel, equipment, and tools on the market. And they shouldn't have to go broke to get it. I've used Impact for about 11 years, and I can attest that they do live up to their core values. So you get a personal recommendation from me. You can find them at impacttactical.com. That's MPAK tactical.com. And be sure to tell them that Two Cops, One Donut sent you.
I was 21 yet, but I remember going to a call. Well, yeah, I was 21 because I went and bought alcohol afterwards. But I remember going to a
I bought
call.
alcohol when I was underage. You're all right.
I went to a call of a teenage kid that was struck and killed in the middle of the road on a rainy night. And I remember leaving that call that night, and I realized my first time I remember deciding I'm going to get a six pack and I'm going to go home. I can't think about this anymore. And then it just never stopped, man. It just seemed like that routine just, I always tell myself I'll quit tomorrow. I'll take days off next time. Man, it just didn't quit. It was just night after night. Like I physically could not sleep unless I'd make myself pass out. And of course, I would take sleeping pills or anything to try to get it. But um, the alcohol mainly was during my police career. It was the alcohol that
So
took me out.
you were specifically drinking for a cause. It wasn't you were drinking to go have fun or do any of that. You were like, I got to get this shit out of my head.
Yes. I mean, I did go out a lot with my buddies and drink. A lot of us would go to like the Elks or whatever. We'd go drink a lot. So I still was out drinking a lot too, but I was also drinking at home in isolation. My wife at the time, she'd just go upstairs and we'd never talked about calls because I wouldn't talk about it. I just wouldn't do it. And I know now how
Yeah.
detrimental that can be on
It's the
myself.
culture. It's the
Yeah.
culture. That's what you hear this from senior officers. This is part of the problem. Is they, keep that shit to you. Want some advice from me, kid? Keep that shit to yourself. Don't
Yep.
go burden her with that stuff. That I
Yep.
remember hearing that stuff from people. I'm like,
We
what kind of ass backwards stuff are you talking?
Yeah,
And he's on his fourth marriage.
the one I never understood was the leave it at work, leave it at work, like, I don't my emotions don't stay with my uniform in my locker like that. There is no you can't just leave your emotions at work. That was always the thing they would
Yeah.
say, "Just leave it. Don't take it home with you. Leave it at work."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now,
so
we try to make sure, like, if me and my wife, if we get in an argument, we're not impervious. I got the perfect marriage over here. No, we definitely argue and do all that stuff. So, um, if she knows I have to go to work, like, and comes from learning, and she got to the point where she's like, "You're not leaving until we solve this, because I can't have you going to work." Like, because if I get killed, and she, like, for herself, like, she's like, I can't live like that, knowing that we ended that way. And
yeah,
so we kind of made it a rule amongst ourselves, like, because I need a cool off guy. Like, I need time to think and be alone. Um, but it can't be an unreasonable amount of time. So we've kind of worked that out amongst each other. Like, all right, go cool off. I'll leave you alone. That's basically what she says. I'll leave you alone, but we got to finish this before you go to work tomorrow. And I'm like, okay. And or if it was like real bad, I would just call off work.
yeah,
I mean, it really takes a conscious effort. And cops are alphas. We're stubborn. And us, you and me, Dan, having this conversation, especially with your wife who's helped you through this here. Um, if we just reach one cop or one first responder to hear you or me say, like, dude, just call off, even if you don't have the days. Your mental health day is important, especially your family dynamics. Like, you don't want to, like, say the worst of the worst happens when you go to work that day. That's not the way you want to leave your family. It's not the way you want to leave your spouse. So these are things to consider. And I'm hoping our employers hear this. That's the thing that I really want to. I want commanders and chiefs and sheriffs to hear this stuff, because that day that you're like, no, we're shorthanded, we need to get these calls taken care of. Like, you need to take a second, step back, listen to your troop, and hear them out.
that's
Like,
right.
it's important, and I think we're making that turn. It's a slow turn, but I know where I'm at. Mental health days are an important thing, and they take them serious. But I
Yeah,
come from a big agency. They're ahead of the game when it comes to that type of training.
that's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah,
more departments need to be like that. Time off is generally frowned upon in most agencies.
for
You know,
sure.
you take a day off and then somebody else has to cover you and that whole thing. I mean, so a lot of times officers just have tons of vacation time built up that they never use.
Hmm.
Where me,
Yeah,
I was kind of the opposite. By the time I was going through my mental breakdown of all those years, man, I used up all my vacation time and comp time for all the wrong reasons. It was stay home and get drunk, so I didn't have to
right.
go work and
So
and stay.
the writing was on the wall for your supervisors. Did they say anything?
No, man, not anything. But here's the thing: I'm not bashing on them. They're just repeating the same things they were taught. You know what I mean? It's going to take one of these generations, which I think it's our generation right now, to finally stand up and change it. But um, um, lost my train of thought again.
I
That your
do it all the
commanders
time.
didn't say
Dude, I'm
anything.
telling you, it's part of my mental health problem is that I'll be talking and then I lose it. What's that?
That your commanders didn't say anything.
Yeah, so no, they didn't say anything, and man, looking back, they should have noticed. They should have noticed I was taking all my time off that I possibly could. I would use it as fast as I can get it. I'd come in disheveled. I mean, they had to have known. Um, Nobody ever said anything. Um, I wish they would have.
Yeah.
Although I don't know how I would have reacted, honestly, because back then I don't have the mindset I have now. So I probably just would have lied to them. So I don't know that it would have done any good. But yeah,
Can I ask you
Yeah.
this though? If the culture would have been different in your department and they said something to you about it, would you have responded in a positive way, do you think? You know what I mean?
yeah. I mean, if it was normalized, right? If it was already like I walked in when I got hired on the PD, everybody was openly talking about it, and it was no big deal. Then yeah, I would have just joined right in. But we're a creature of habits, and nobody ever talked about it. I mean, it's just not what
Yeah.
anybody did. But yeah, no, nobody. They should have noticed a lot. I mean, I quit wearing my vest because I wanted to get shot and killed in the line of duty. So, and I would get caught with that. My sergeant liked to slap me in the back. It's just this thing he did. with people, but when he did it to me, he would find I didn't have a vest on a lot, so I'd get in trouble for that. But even then, he didn't. They didn't realize I didn't. I wouldn't draw my gun on dangerous calls. Wouldn't do it. I just wanted. I
Yeah.
was like, I'll just jump in front of the bullet and die, and we can end this right now. My family can get paid, and oh well, I'll be gone. Everybody will be taken care of. But
Yeah.
yeah, I wish they would. I wish they would have noticed.
Yeah.
I really wish when I started my career, I would have had somebody who just said, "Young man," a veteran officer that said, "Young man, this is what the job's going to be like. It's not going to be easy. Here's the things you're going to see. Um, I'm a resource for you. If you're struggling, reach out to me and don't do it on your own." Just kind of say the things that we all talk about now. Somebody would have done that, man. I think I'd probably still have my badge.
Do you were you ever drinking on the job? Did it
No,
get to
not on,
that point?
not on the job. But I honestly wouldn't be surprised if, when I was working days, if he would have PBT'd me in the morning after a night of drinking.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would have blown zeros, Eric, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like even at my department, I mean, it's we're we still find people that are suffering from alcoholism and stuff like that. It's I will say, at least where I'm at, the help, the offer, everything is there. It's just a matter of, it's like smoking. You're not gonna quit till you're ready to get some help, or willing to quit. Um, so it's hard. I think that's the line that we have at like a place like mine that has all these resources available. Like you can put everything in the world out there, but until that person's ready, I don't know if it's perspective. I don't know. I don't know what the thing is. I do know if supervisors take their job seriously and they really get to know their troops, I think I think that's the next evolution. I think right now the culture of policing is we have supervisors that some are pretty proactive. Most of them are just trying to not let you get in trouble. Like they're doing enough to not let you get in trouble. And, they come in, they punch in, they punch out, and there's no real motivation to be a leader anymore. I don't know how else to put it. If our sergeants, I still think the sergeant is the most important rank.
Yes.
And if a sergeant's on top of their game and doing what they're supposed to do, they should have seen that Dan, sorry, I don't know if it's Daniel, but they should have saw that they should have saw you struggling. Should have came across. Um, so you start going through these issues. You're drinking heavily, and you're trying to use it to sleep. You got the night terrors going on. The substance abuse starts to kick in. You're using all your days off. That right there is like in classes that we have. That's one of the number one signs. They don't have time to take off.
Yep.
That's a huge sign. And then the culture of policing. Like if you're talking to your troops, you'd be like, "Yeah, we went out drinking the other night," and then you find out Dan went drinking the other night with another guy, and then Dan went drinking out the following night. Everybody else on the team went out and drank once, but Dan went drinking every single night with at least one of those guys.
Yep.
That's an involved supervisor. It's not that hard,
We had a
especially.
we had a police chief who was an alcoholic. He's not the chief now, but back when I was an officer, was an alcoholic, and I mean, he would just call me and say, "Hey, let's go to the bar after I got off work." So I mean, it was, you know, I had an alcoholic for a chief. Therefore, and I was an alcoholic. So
Yeah,
I wasn't going to get any support from my chief when it comes to alcohol or anything like that. Not at that time. But I do think I agree with you. I think it's changing, and I think it's changing because we're finally treating it like the injury that it is,
yeah,
and it's not weakness. It's asking for help isn't weakness. In fact, it's wisdom, and the fact that our brains are being injured, just like a broken leg or anything, and
yeah,
there's no shame in it. No shame in breaking your leg. There's no shame in when you get injuries from calls that you see. And I think the more supervisors and the more first responders and more people like you and I are willing to talk about it and normalize it, we can kind of help change that. And I do slowly see that, like you said, that curve. I think it's
yeah,
finally coming. It's finally coming.
yeah. Now where I would like to see things start to go is we've put a lot of focus. A lot of this started with the Afghanistan and Iraqi war. Um, that's where this cognition and understanding and all this stuff really started to come from and develop. 20-year plus war, we've really made big strides on PTSD. Where we are struggling to educate and learn anything is on Christina's side of the house. Our spouses, our significant others. That is the next branch that we need to start working with. It's one thing for our departments to offer courses for you and I.
Yep.
What the hell is she getting? She's not getting
That,
anything. Like, we're lucky. She has a psychology degree. She's got some understanding of what's going on and is able to recognize this stuff. Now imagine, your unemployed wife or your teacher wife or somebody that really has nothing to do with or ever had any side of the military or first responder life. And you wonder why the divorce rate's so high. You can't, it's a 50-50 thing. We got to start educating, and our departments need to start offering marital classes.
yep.
I would like to see it broke down into, established relationships or new relationships, because if you're just getting into this world, Christina just jumping into the first responder lifestyle through you by proxy, unless you're Dan, or you sit there and tell her what to expect, she ain't gonna know until she's already in love, and that's
Yep.
where these problems start to happen. So I think that's something departments need to start offering. Is like, look, if you're in a serious relationship, here's what we have to offer. These are the things that he or she need to understand with your lifestyle. For instance, you tell me, well, Dan, if this is what you went through, you be on the phone. All right, yeah, honey, I understand. Yeah, I gotta go. Bye. All right, love you. Bye. Just
Yep.
like, my wife knows if I say I gotta go, there's not gonna be an argument about that later. Why'd you just hang up on me? But I'll hear some of the rookie officers talking to their girlfriends and stuff, and they'll be like, "I'm sorry, baby, I had to go. I got to do this," and they're trying to backtrack, and I'm just like, you have to take the time. They need to either come do a ride-in with somebody else or whatever, and understand that, like, shit happens now. That's
Yep.
our lifestyle. Now. And if
Yep.
you don't have the education or the perspective to shed on somebody else as you're getting into a relationship, you don't want to scare them off. So I
Yep.
mean, you're just constantly battling.
Right.
So as we're talking, I'm brainstorming, but I think that's important. I think that's the next evolution of what we're talking about. Because like you said, we're turning a corner. It's only going to get better for us that are doing the job and having the resources available that we need. But we're only getting one side. We're only getting half of the battle. The other half of the battle is our family that's sitting at home and they're not getting educated. They don't know.
Yep. That's right. That's why at the 1042 project, one of the things we do is we travel around to mental health conferences around the country, and we fly in first responders, and we ask when we say to bring your loved one with them. Everything we do in the 1042 project is family oriented for that exact reason. Is if you're just going to address the first responder, your chances are going to be very, very slim. But if you can treat and help the whole family, you're gonna have a lot better chance. And everything we do, some of the videos we make are going to be with spouses and talking about exactly that. Um, so yeah, that's one of the things we're doing. We're really focused on the whole family, the kids and everybody, because being a first responder is not a one person job; it's a family job. And that's what, yeah. So yeah, I agree with you. The full
Yeah.
family approach is that's the police agencies and first responder agencies have got to start with the spouses. That would have been powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Something that kind of gave me that idea is one of the things that my agency does is during the hiring. It's not even the hiring process. It's when you're about to start the academy. It's like the Friday before you start on that Monday. They have like a family night, and that's when they have kind of a come to Jesus moment. And it's all of the hired officers, the recruits, they're out of the room, and then it's just a bunch of like actual officers that have been around for a while, male, female, whatever, and they sit there and they try to let them know all of these things to expect, at least while they're in the academy, and then when they become cops. Like, listen, you not only for the next, our academy was 7-8 months at the time. They're like, not only for the next 8 months are you gonna have to like handle all the stuff going on in the house, like, because he's gonna have to study. Like, This is basically an associate's degree crammed into 8 months. So
Yeah.
these are responsibilities that you're going to have to step up and do if you really want them to get through, because otherwise you're going to stress them out even more. And
Yep.
there's some people that look and they're like, fuck him. He's got responsibilities here. Like,
Yep.
I've heard that response. Well, he's going to have to sack up. I heard a wife say that. He's going to have to sack up. I was like, oh shit.
Dang.
Yeah. I was like, I don't want to go home to her. there's there's some sort of domestic abuse happening over there, and he ain't part of it. So,
No kidding.
but yeah, so it's not exactly what I'm talking about that I would like to see. I don't think it's not really educating. That's more of a scare tactic in a way, because we want you to have that real talk and discussion, but we don't have the time to sit there and teach you, so we do that. That's like an option. So
Yeah.
as much as I like it, I would like to see some more stuff offered. Like I said, for new relationships, established relationships, and even relationships that are on the rocks.
Yep.
I would love for that to come around, because it really, at the end of the day, I think perspective is everything. And when you can bring in your spouse and she gets to hear from these wives that can explain all the same things that they were feeling, and they're like, this is what this is what turned the corner to heal us, rather than just separate and call it quits,
Yep.
um, which oftentimes leads to suicide for a lot of first responders. Those splits, those that's the final straw for a lot of us. I've got one a kid that I say kid. I always feel like an asshole for saying that. A recruit that I had trained, and a former military member had took his life right after a breakup. Like it was the final straw. It wasn't just that, but it was the final straw. So I think about that a lot. I wasn't close with that guy by any means, but he was what I always say, he's a solid troop. He was a solid troop, and
Yeah.
never would have expected any of that, because we weren't close, and especially being at a large agency. How big was your agency?
Mine was only 22. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It
Uh,
was not very big.
yeah. But people need to understand, like, I try to tell people, like, in Montana is gigantic. You have no clue. And because it's so big, when you are out there responding to something, it's even more dangerous, because backup is hours away.
Yes.
So for somebody like you, and people are going to hear, I call them the elitists. These, like these NYPD guys. Well, we got a cop like 30 seconds around the corner everywhere we go. Well, that's great, bud. Try having
Yeah.
backup, 2 hours away. Um,
Yep.
so it's very dangerous out there, and the bad guys all know that too. They know that you're at a 22-man department and you're covering, 500 square miles or whatever it
Yeah.
was that you had. So, and then you doing the drug task force, now we're talking a joint operation that spans over an even larger area of probably what your main area was when you got hired on.
Yep.
So, um, so as you start to spiral, Dan, what was there a catalyst? Did the job make you medically retire? Was there a diagnosis and they're like, you got to quit? What was that transition as you were hitting bottom?
Yeah, so it was really about it was only 8 years in, so 2008 is when I really started now I can look back and identify it. I didn't then, but now I can look back and realize it was about 2008 when I started my downward spiral. Um, and it went on all the way until 2014, which is when I went out on medical. I was actually having, which I've learned from talking to a lot of other first responders that have PTSD. Mine was misdiagnosed as a heart issue for about 3 years. I had to go up to the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota, spend time up there. I mean, literally going to the hospital about every month.
Oh my
Uh,
God. I
yeah,
was,
and
I
and
don't,
they and they couldn't. They just kept saying it was heart related, but they couldn't figure out all the testing and all the different hospitals I went to. They could not find out what was wrong with the heart. They basically just said you had a heart noid problem, and your heart will just be get real erratic for no reason. Um, so just kept treating with that, changing the meds, and nothing was working. Um, when I when I when I was working my last year on, literally about every month, if not twice a month, I'd have to pull my patrol car over, call for EMS to come and drag me out of my car. I'd just start to get tunnel vision. The heart would start to race and just feel like I was dying. I know now I was having like panic attacks. Um, So finally, my chief came to me. He's like, "Hey, I think it's time for you to talk to your pension board and look at early retirement for your heart issues." Um, so I didn't want to. I fought it. I mean, I fought that chief on to the next chief. And he ended up coming to me saying the same thing, like, dude, you're gonna get somebody killed or yourself killed, which I was. I mean, that's what would have happened. They were exactly right. So I was hesitant, but I went and turned my paperwork in, and they sent me over to Iowa City Hospital for 2 days of testing, to be, to get approved to go out on medical. And that's when I was there. They were looking through my medical records, and the psychiatrist, who I saw right towards the end, said, "Son, you don't have a PTSD, or you don't have a heart issue. You have a PTSD issue." And that was the first time anybody ever said those words to me. Was in my, I guess, my exit interview to for my pension board. So that was the first time those words were ever said to me. I had known it, but those were the first words that he said to it. So yeah, it was all heart issues at first, and then once I realized it was mental health issues, then they started to, I was able to start addressing that. I got on some medicine, did some little things to try to help, but not a lot. Um, and then I got approved, and then after I got, again, like I said earlier, once I got my medical, um, I get 60% of my pay. But I went through a divorce 1 year before that, and so my ex-wife for the rest of her life gets half of my pension every single year. Um, so doing that, so not having money to even live, so now I'm having mental health issues. I've lost my what I thought was my purpose in life, which was being a police officer. I'd gone through a divorce. My home was foreclosed on. I mean, I literally just hit the wall on everything. And I used to sit in my bathtub in just my underwear because I didn't want to make a mess. Um, And when I got out of law enforcement, I got addicted to pain pills. I had 2 back-to-back surgeries, and boy, I love those pain kills, man. They just they would numb my thoughts. I didn't have to feel or really think about my mental health issues, man. I could just numb it. So once I started taking those pain pills, I was like, "Wow, this is my jam. This will be great. This will get me through it." Little did I know the monster of addiction that I was about to walk into. And my doctor was, he was giving me around, I think it was 125 10 milligrams hydrocodone pills a month, 125 a month, and I'd be calling him and needing more because I would go through that many, um, just popping them all the time. And then so I would sit in my bathtub in my underwear with my pill bottle, my vodka bottle, my handgun, and just sit there and get drunk and keep popping pills and keep popping pills in hopes of dying. And I would just sit there and push the gun against my head and just try to get it to fire. No, and I wasn't pulling the trigger. It was just putting enough pressure on it and getting drunk and getting high and just hoping the gun would go off. And that would repeat itself, man. I had a whole plan. I was going to call over to the county next to us and say, "Hey, this is who I am. I'm getting ready to take my life. Please don't send any of my people from my area," and to have them do it. And really, one of the only things that kept me from actually pulling the trigger was I didn't want to pass my trauma on to the next first responder that was going to have to come and see a fellow first responder with his brains blown out. And that was really about the only thing that kept me from doing it was that. Even though I had 3 kids, Eric, I didn't feel worthy to be their dad, so I didn't feel worthy of living. To me, if once I died, my kids were going to prosper because they weren't going to be, I felt like, dealing with a dad who was an alcoholic, who was addicted to pain pills, living out of his car, bouncing from job to job. I went through that for 7 years, and I finally I got off the pain pills, man, and then in 2020, I had left work, and I was at a therapy session the day before, and it destroyed me. It was just a very, very hurtful appointment. We left early. I literally bawled from the time we left to the time we got home. I got up the next day to go to work. I'm not an officer at this time. I had a sales job, and I drove to work, man, and I just couldn't quit crying. I haven't felt this level of hurt in years. And my boss came in and saw me sitting at my desk bawling. He knew me. He knows my history, my mental health, and he told me to go home for the day. Which what he didn't know is I was already going to tell him I was leaving because I'd already decided I was going to drive home. And on the drive home, I was going to kill myself in an area where I've covered a fatality before, so I knew where this area would work. And I was dead set on this was it. We had just gotten engaged, and this was August 8th of 2020. We got engaged. She has 2 beautiful kids, and the thought of bringing another family into my mess of a self, I couldn't let that happen. So I left with full intentions, driving my car and killing myself at the bridge. And man, for the first time, I felt I've never been a big God person. I mean, I was raised in a Christian home, but to me, God was just somebody you pray to when you're in trouble or if you're so drunk, you just pray to God to take it all away. That's all it was. I didn't have a relationship. I just felt the only thing I can say, the presence of God just tell me to turn to go to this lake that was on the way home. And I'm like, for there's no reason. I'm ending this. But I did. I drove to the lake, and when I got out of my car, man, it was odd. I walked up to the water, and I just fell on my knees, and I started. I was still bawling. I would say started bawling, and I just kind of like told God, like, I'm ready to go kill myself here. What do you need? Like, what? What? Like, what is this? And he showed me the vision of just that, me sitting in the bathtub. But it wasn't me. It was another first responder. And right then, I felt God just say, like, we're going to help show the world what help is and what it looks like, and not in a cocky way, like we have some special treatment or anything like that. Literally meaning we're going to use video cameras and professional recording equipment, and we're going to show help, what help is and what it looks like. Because when I was struggling, Eric, man, I couldn't find the help. When I get online, it was confusing. I didn't know who was for profit, who was nonprofit, who was just trying to make a buck off of PTSD, because there's a lot of those out there. And I couldn't find anything, man. So when he put that on my heart, we know now it ended up turning into our video library, which we can talk about later. But I just felt God, and I gave my life to God that day, and He showed me that vision, and He put the words 1042 project in my mind at the time, and all I know is I stood up, man, and my pain was gone. I didn't hurt as far as emotions. I wasn't crying. I just felt like this new surge of life, and I went home. And when she got home from work, I told her about it, and she said, when we were when we left the therapy appointment yesterday, she's like, I had a vision, and again, we don't have visions. We're not like we see visions. Like this is all weird to us. She's like, I saw the vision, and well, it is. It's kind of weird, guy. But she's like, I had a vision that you had just walked off a stage, and you were standing around a bunch of first responders, and they were talking to you, and so we started talking about building the 1042 project, and that's kind of how it was birthed. But it all started with the day I was, another day where I was headed to go kill myself, and everything changed, and here we are.
Man, it's heavy, bro.
Yeah,
That's heavy stuff, man.
it's been a journey, man.
What was
I didn't want to live for a long time, man. It's weird when you wake up to plan your suicide every day.
what
And to
was the
figure it out.
catalyst to get you off pills?
My doctor stopped giving them to me. He actually ended up I think got in trouble with the state, um,
Oh,
and so my supply was cut off, man. So I didn't have a choice. I went cold turkey and went through the shakes and the horrible days of withdrawals, and I just busted through it that way. There was no intention there. It
okay.
just and then but once I got through and I went through those withdrawals, man, and the days of aches and pains and just again wanting to die because it was so horribly painful. Once I busted through that, it was like, all right, I ain't going back to
Yeah.
that. Like,
Where what's the pain like? Explain that to me.
man, the only way I can say is it's through your whole body, and it's like just a weight. It's like wearing just an extra 200 pounds of weight on your body. It hurts to even try to walk because you're in your mind. You've already. I've already in my mind. I'd already died spiritually. I had already died mentally. I'd already died inside. All I had to do was kill the shell. That's all I had to do. I've already died all those other ways. Now I just got to kill this stupid shell that I'm wearing, and away I go. But it's a sick way to live. It really is. It's a sick way to live. But when I talk about the pain, man, it's guilt and shame to a level where you literally cannot function. You don't want to even get out of your room. You don't want to get out of your bed, and everything, everything just causes you're sensitive to everything. Everything
Yeah.
hurts you, everything causes more pain. You truly feel like you're in this deep hole, in this well, and you can't climb out of it, man. You feel like there's no way. You feel like when a person loses hope, man, it's tough when you lose hope. And that's how it was for me, Eric, because to me, hope was a fake word. I didn't know it. I didn't know what that meant. And but when I gave my life to God, man, and I started following Jesus, I mean, it started to change immediately. And then I became, we started talking openly about everything at that point. And yeah, it's been a long journey, man. And it's not
I can
over.
see that.
it's not over. And now, man, our whole purpose is just to help other first responders that are struggling like me, and to show them that no matter how far down that well you feel of depression and shame and guilt, that there is a way out. I promise you, there's a way out. You don't have to take your life. You don't have to
Yeah.
keep popping pills. You don't have to keep drinking alcohol to numb everything. You really
Yeah.
don't. And that's what we're just trying to help. We're trying to show people is we're trying to get, but we built this platform, this media platform, I guess you can say, on 1042 Project, where we're going to travel the world, and we're going to tell first responders stories. We're going to meet with all the different resources that are out there. We're going to talk with them about what they provide. You know, if it's a treatment house, we'll go there and we'll film. We'll show what it's like to walk in, show what it's like to meet with the staff, and just kind of remove all those fears that first responders have of the unknown. We're just going to kind of bring it all to light and bring it all up um, on a
Yeah.
media platform where people can come and find the help that's out there in their area, and see videos that we made with them, and the help that they're providing for first responders. And the more first responders like myself we can get in front of camera to talk about alcohol and mental health and pain pill addictions or adultery, whatever it may be able to be that first responders struggle with, we can give them a platform where other first responders can watch it and see it and understand that it's normal. How you feel is normal and that it's okay. um, Having that platform for them, I think, is going to be powerful. And we're just getting that launched this month in September. We just got back from Boston. We were at a mental health conference out there filming, and we got a lot of good videos that are coming out. And we're at the point now we're going to be pumping out new videos just rapidly with new any resource partners. If there's anybody that's watching and you're a resource partner, you provide help to first responders, reach out to us. We would love to come down to your location or up to your location, film with you, talk with you, meet with your staff, and get you known, and have you become embedded resources for our organization. So when first responders come and they are looking for help, we're gonna have resources on there to direct them to the help, and to have those videos up there to kind of direct them and guide them on what help is and what it looks like.
Very nice. I need to get you connected with Austin Glickman out of New York. He runs the, I think it's called Elio's Weekend.
Mm,
It is stemmed around the same premise with first responders who've been killed on the line of duty, and then their families and stuff like that. Um, so you got that mental health aspect. Part of that I always think is the us survivors, us that worked with that person and stuff like that. I always think that's an important one to try to reach out to. But his platform, he's got the muster, like not mustard, but muster, like military muster room
yeah,
podcast. Very good. I think you guys would. I think your story especially fits in line with what he does. Mine's kind of an all encompassing. I do, you know, convicted people that have been, you know, exonerated for murder. I've done, you know, I've had judges, I've had prosecutors. I do all sides of the criminal justice system to try to bridge that gap and stuff like that, and bring awareness that way. I don't specialize typically in the PTSD, PTSI, whatever you want to call it, and things of that, the mental health aspects. But what I do like to do is showcase people like yourself that did the job, you know,
yeah.
Christina, that is, you know, a partner in this, and a spouse, and trying to heal. Like that's it. You hit the jackpot with her, bro.
I know, right?
Yeah. Because she's obviously, I mean, yeah, she's got some of the training. I keep wanting, I don't want to say psychologist, but she's got a psychology degree. So that's huge. You know, I almost switched my degree to psychology for sleep psychology.
Dang.
uh I do have one question, Christina. Has he ever tried to arrest you in his sleep?
No, not
I've
yet.
I have done that several times to my wife.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, it's like for real. Like I'm putting her hands behind her back, and I am completely asleep. So
Wow.
I don't know if that's a PTSD issue as much as just my brain having a dream of an arrest that I had made or whatever it is. But these are things that people need to know and hear and consider. Like it's funny, you know, looking back, but at the time, you're like, and you know, she's trying to wake me up, and she's like, "What the hell?" Like, she thinks I'm playing around, and like in my head, I finally wake up, I look and I'm like, what the hell am I doing? And it takes, a few minutes to kind of gather your thoughts and figure out what's going on, figure out what the hell's going on. But these are things that are important to know and to talk about and joke about. I like having humor mixed with stuff, but
Yeah.
if your 1042 project's going around, you can be like, yeah, we talked to one cop on his podcast, and he said he was arresting his wife in his sleep. Like,
That's
Yeah.
hilarious.
but
Yeah,
it's a real thing.
Oh,
Luckily, I use appropriate force. She wasn't fighting back, so there's no strikes involved. So, um,
you probably just thought you were getting frisky there, buddy.
I know, right?
You
She
probably
probably
let her
why,
down. You probably let her
yeah.
down when you stopped.
Oh shit, we've been together so long. She's probably like, not tonight. Jeez,
Get
roll
home,
over.
I got a headache again.
Yeah.
But to
So
go back real quick, when we were talking, when you said it, just hit me when you said the word PTSD or PTSI. I want to address that real quick because I understand a lot of people get offended by it, and to me, that's it. I don't care what you call it. You can
right.
call it. You can call it squirrel crap. I don't care what you call it. We all know what we're talking about. We all know what
Yeah.
we're talking about. It's about mental health. Call it what you want, but so many people are afraid to talk about it because I get corrected a lot. It's not PTSD, it's PTSI. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is PTSI, and it is PTSD, and it's PTS. I don't care what you call it. I'm just glad we're talking about it. Now let's talk about it and quit worrying about what we named it.
Yeah. The semantics. Yep.
Yeah, we're so worried about that.
Yeah.
Let's just be glad we're talking about it and call it whatever you want.
Yeah, and I think actually Keith is the one that told me about the PTSI. I could be wrong on that. Sorry, Keith, if
Yeah,
I'm
I
wrong,
think
but
it was.
I'd never heard that term. And he's like, and he didn't correct me as like, no, it's not PTSD. He's like another thing that people are calling it is PTSI because we're actually now qualifying it as an injury. It's not a disorder. It's not to make people feel bad to say they have a disorder versus an injury, but it really is an injury.
Right. And I get
So
why some people want to change the name. I understand that because it is an injury, it's not a disorder. But however, because of here in the United States, PTSD has been the term for it for years and years and
yeah.
years. When you're talking about it, if you say PTSI, some people may think that's a cable network. They don't,
Right.
So a lot of
Yeah.
times we use the word PTSD because that's just what a lot of people understand. And I know it offends some people. I'm fine
Yeah.
with whatever you call it. Let's just talk about it. I don't care what you
Yeah.
call it.
I tell people to quit being so offended.
Yes.
You'll get over it. You know what happens when you get offended? Nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing. What I would love this is for me personally, especially with your guys' location. You guys are in Iowa still, correct?
Yep.
So I know how beautiful Iowa is. I know how beautiful that whole area is. Um, Iowa. You guys are close to damn it. My geographic location off the top of my head. There's a city over there. What's the big city?
Des Moines.
Des
Des
Moines. That's what I was thinking of.
Yep.
So horseback riding, all of that stuff, pretty big out there. Yes, no.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of my parents own horses. Yeah, a lot of people have horses. There's a lot of places you can go and like rent horses and go on trail rides and stuff like that. But no, you don't see people riding their horses down Main Street or anything like
Not
that.
in Des Moines. Yeah, I get that, but I
Yeah,
just think of those big towns and especially where I'm located, the rodeos and stuff. You hear Des Moines get called out quite a bit for riders
yeah,
and stuff. But
big rodeo.
horseback riding is very therapeutic to me. I actually took my kiddo up to Montana for 6 days, and we just rode horses every single day.
Yep.
And being in your guys you're in rural area, like maybe the 1042 project can expand and get its own little ranch going and
There you go.
have a little, you
Yeah,
put on a little education thing, some class stuff, some horseback,
yeah,
just enjoying nature, and
yeah.
that'd be
I did
good.
rodeo for a couple of years. I rode bulls there for a couple of years.
Oh,
Uh,
jeez.
so there you go. We'll just get some bulls and have everybody come ride bulls.
Yeah.
No, thank you. I've seen how strong they are. I'm good.
I paid for it. That's why I had to have so many shoulder surgeries from getting your dang shoulder ripped apart.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just that constant rip on your shoulder. Mine didn't hold up at all. I
Um,
was tearing everything.
Well, that reminds me of another question that I've got. So as you're going through this stuff, I think staying physically fit, putting yourself through a really strenuous exercise, like not just, casually going on the elliptical, guys. I'm talking putting yourself through the ringer on a good hard ass workout where after you're done, you're like, oh my God, I'm gonna die. Why did I do that? And you know, you recover and you feel amazing. Like when you were going through what you were going through, were you in a physically fit mindset? Were you working out and doing all that stuff? Do you think that would have helped you? I'm trying. I've got this theory that like if you really put yourself through the ringer on workouts, it can help fight those mental issues.
100%, 100%. So no, I was a fat toad back then, man. I was just I was, I passed my mile and a half to get in and get hired, and after that, baby, is let's get some calories going. I like give me some Red Bull and McDonald's, man. That's my, I was
Yeah,
no, I was a fat toad. I wasn't doing any of my taking care of myself at all. No self care. Um, but I do know now because once going back to 2020 when her and I met and we started the organization, one of the first things I did was I felt like I needed to lose weight, and during 2020 I lost 55 pounds, and that was all from hard workouts, going to the gym. We got Fitbit watches, so we're always counting our steps. But that's
yeah,
when I realized how much your mental health and your physical health are tied together. They're not just near each other; they're tied together. If you are out exercising daily and just having some self care and having that not just mental time at the gym, but the physical time at the gym, because the mental part is just as important, man. You can get lost in the gym, and that's what's awesome about it. But man, when I am actively going to the gym not every day, but constantly going, I'm not doing so good this last month, but going consistently. When I'm going consistently, man, my mental health does fantastic. I'm not saying I
yeah.
don't have some down days, but overall it does great. But man, when I don't work out for a long period of time, I feel it. I feel it. For whatever reason, they're both very much attached to each other.
I'm glad you say that because, like I said, it for somebody you're coming from the lowest of lows, you
Mhm.
know, and so you've got that perspective that, let's say a guy like me that, let's say I don't work out for the next 6 months, year. COVID actually did that to me for about 6 months. But I start to get into a funk and I can't quite put the two together. I try to tell people like, go do a strenuous workout.
Yep.
Keep making that a habit. It will help clear that fog. Like you said, you feel better. So for a guy like you that was coming from that very low, I could only imagine the healing factor that you felt as you started to get physically fit, as well as getting the mental help and all that stuff.
It was powerful, man. It was honestly one of the I don't wanna say it was the big thing of my journey, but it was one of the big things when I started getting to the gym and I lost those 55 pounds and started to care about my health and what I eat. And of
Yeah,
course, I don't drink alcohol every night anymore. That helps.
yeah,
But man, it's so important to be able to take care of your physical health and go out and have those hard workouts. I never thought I would like trail running. I love trail running. I need to be doing it more, but it's hard, but man, is it fun, and you can get lost in it. It's great.
yeah.
If there's people listening right now, if you just need one step to help your mental health, that's probably one of the quickest ways to get some a mental health check and just help bring some of that pain down, some of that tension down. Get in the gym and don't just do a workout, but bust your workout. I mean, get after it. And there's something about after that workout, man, you're on a high, and a lot of things you worried about, you realize you don't worry about so much.
Yeah. Absolutely. I can't wait for you to watch this episode, okay? And here's why. And I'm not trying to make you feel uncomfortable or anything like that, but I have watched you physically go through a, a variety of emotions, and I've seen the physical um, responses. When you were talking about your lowest of lows and stuff like that, I could see the hands pat the knees. I could see the discomfort. I could see you're still going through it.
Yes.
And then as you start to talk about when you talk about Christina, like I could see the that alleviate. And then as we were talking about physical fitness, something that really helped you out as well. Like, dude, your shoulders got taller, everything. So it's going to be interesting for you to watch this now that I've pointed that out to you because I want people to understand like you're still struggling,
Yeah.
but it talking about it is helping, and just talking about the things you enjoy and the things that have helped you. I literally watched you rise as we talked about it. So like I said, and I don't mean to make you feel bad or uncomfortable or anything like
Yeah.
that. That's not my intentions, but it's just it's it's cool to watch,
Hmm.
because that's how I can tell you're genuine about what you're saying. And Christine, I know you're right next to him, so I don't know if you see the same thing. I have a kind of a bird's eye view.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I guess probably has made it so fun to psychoanalyze Daniel is his body language. He tells you everything with his body language, really. But I mean, big picture too, like when he was especially like seeing the fire, I guess, in his eyes when he realized what an impact going to the gym and working out vigorously, like you said, just how that impacted him. Boy, he just loved it. Like new guy. The way that he would carry himself day to day changed. I mean, it had a huge impact. So yes, I would to what you guys were saying, definitely recommend that. It makes a huge difference.
That's the
Absolutely.
word I was looking for, vigorously. That I couldn't. I was trying to think of a word for it. Thank you. But
But yeah,
yeah,
I'm still healing, and that's one thing about mental health, PTSD or PTSI, whatever you want to call it, is you can't go have a surgery for it, right? Um, it's a process, and it's going to be the process. It's going to be a process for the rest of my life, and I understand that. So you're right, I do, and I don't know it until you say it, but I do still struggle with it, and I know that I'm still going to be struggling with it probably for the rest of my life. But I also know there's tools and resources out there um, to make that can make that happen. And yeah,
yeah,
man, I just don't want people to think that it's like you're never going to get to a point where you're like, "Whoop, PTSD's gone," because it's
yeah,
just not. There's residual PTSD, which a lot of us struggle with, where it's almost like a figure eight, where you climb your way all the way to the top and you're doing really, really good, and then you just fall right back to the bottom, and you're looking up and trying to go, "How am I going to get back up there?" Um, but yeah, it's a process, and it's something you're going to have to work on your whole life. If you stop going to the gym, if you stop, get take going to counseling, or you stop going to peer support groups, and you stop doing that, it's all going to come back eventually. You have to just keep treating it, keep treating it, keep treating it, keep talking about it. Unfortunately, it's just part of your life now, and the sooner you accept it and understand that it's part of you, but it's not the end of you. There's resources and stuff that are out there to help, and that's kind of what our organization is trying to do, is help people see what
yeah.
resources are out there, and see that this is a lifelong process. There is no one fix for this. I wish there was, but there's not.
Have you had a conversation with you said you have kids, boys, girls? What do you got?
We got I so I have we're a mixed family, obviously. So I had 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl. The 2 oldest are in college right now, and then the youngest is a junior in high school. And then Christina, has a 12-year-old boy and a 7-year-old girl who just got a new cat yesterday, and she is in hog heaven. Um, so yeah, we have all the ranges of our kids, and we talk very openly with our kids about my mental health, about my struggles. I don't lie to them about my past. I talk about how I wasn't the best dad during those times, and I've asked for their forgiveness, and they've forgiven me. And I think it's important that you talk to your kids and help them understand what you're going through, because they see it. Trust me, they see it. They're just confused and they don't know why. So the
Yeah,
more you can talk about it and you can remove that worry or that stress from their little heads, and just say that this is what it is, and this is what I'm going through, and this is, I'm having a good day or a bad day, and they understand it. I think they all really do. I mean, I honestly think, I could be wrong, but I think they're proud of what we're doing. I think they're proud that we're being willing to talk about the hard times.
yeah,
The embarrassing, the stuff that should cause guilt and shame, and caused guilt and shame for year after year after year. Now that they can see that that's gone, that I don't struggle with guilt and shame of it anymore. Um, it's powerful. I mean, it's why it's a full
yeah.
family approach. Your kids have got to be involved as well.
What was it? And I'm not trying to open up any band-aids or anything like that, but with your ex-wife, like, Was she trying to get you? Like, did she see the writing on the wall? Were you hiding it from her as well?
Yeah, I was hiding it from her, but she wasn't an idiot. Her dad was a police officer. He was a chief of police in Dubuque, Iowa. So she was raised with a cop, so she wasn't dumb. But man, I'm telling you, I was hard headed. I wouldn't talk to her. She would try to get me to talk, and I wouldn't do it. Um, she tried. She tried.
Okay.
I take all full responsibility for it all falling apart. I mean, I was a mess. I wouldn't have been married to me either.
Yeah.
Um, but we still get along. There's no, I've apologized to her, and she knows that I talk openly about it now. I
Yeah.
didn't then, um, but can't turn back
That,
the time.
that's
And
probably huge for your kids. I mean, honestly.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Knowing
The
that.
divorce hurt him. Divorce hurt him bad, like it does everybody. And now that I've got a clear mind and I'm healthy, I can talk to them and I can take ownership of my responsibility and to let them know that don't get mad at your mom. You want to get mad at somebody, get at me. I was the one that was struggling and had an alcohol problem and a pain pill addiction, and I just tell them everything. And
Yeah.
I feel like we have a better relationship now than ever. That because I don't feel like I have to hide anything from them. And now their questions are answered. What the hell's wrong with dad? Well, now they got to hear from dad what's wrong, and now they're my support system.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, if the thing that I'm taking out of that is it doesn't matter how deep down that hole you get, the light's at the end. If you start trying to turn it around, like you can turn it around. And that's the important thing to tell, our brothers in blue, our FD guys, any of them, because it's not just a cop issue for sure. It's not I mean, there's so many. I have learned just through doing this podcast that it's teachers, it's ambulance, there's a lot of people involved. It's prosecutors and defense attorneys and a lot of anybody involved in the criminal justice system or loosely involved in the criminal justice system. I mean, we're all affected by these things. And when we start to say only soldiers can have that stuff or only police officers can have that stuff, like we're really, really doing everybody a disservice. So pointing out, I mean, in a sense, you put your kids through a PTSD moment. You put your ex-wife through that. You put Christina through that. They've got their own ways that they're going to have to learn to deal with that. So it's not just a cop thing. It's not just a soldier thing. We all get exposed to this stuff. So the more we can have these conversations, I'm kind of beating a dead horse in this manner, but the more we have these conversations and shed that perspective and show like quit looking down on people or turn your nose up when somebody says that they're struggling and you try to one up that symptom like it's bad, it's bad news all around. So I really like what y'all are doing. I think it's great. I think it's unique. I mean, there's a lot of people trying to bring some exposure to PTSD and stuff for first responders, but I kind of think the approach y'all are taking is very, very different. So I like that.
Yeah, we're trying to make it so it's confidential. That's the big thing. Confidential, confidential, confidential. And so one of the things that we're having our web page redone. We have one that's up and running, and there's videos on it right now. But here, hopefully by the end of the month or next month, we're going to have where you'll be able to go to our website. You can click on whatever category you're struggling with, it's depression, PTSD, alcoholism, divorce, whatever it may be. And you're going to see, eventually, you're going to be able to watch videos that we created, so it's videos created by your peers for you and made with other peers and other resource partners. And just trying to give a platform, kind of like what you're doing, is giving a platform for people to come and find help. And we can really do that through these videos because if a fireman's getting off of a call and laying in his bunk after going to a horrible call, we want him to be able to pull out his phone. We're having an app that's being built. We're able to just click on the 1042 app and watch, a 10 to 15-minute video of hope from fellow first responders, talking about what they've gone through and how they've gotten through it. I think that's going to be powerful, and it's confidential because again, you're just watching it on your phone. We don't know who's watching. Yeah, it'll give us a number of how many views. We don't know who you are. So you can discreetly get help without anybody else knowing. If that's where you are in your journey, if you don't want anybody to know yet, number one, I think you should tell somebody close to you. But we're going to provide you a place to get help to where people don't have to know. You can just watch videos. You can reach out to us. We'll help connect you with those resources. We don't want funds to be an issue. We want to be able to pay for your way to go to that. We are a nonprofit, so we have to do a lot of fundraising, but we're going to have funds set aside just for that. For once people watch our videos and they kind of, those videos are going to kind of help peel that onion. It's going to take that first responder down a journey road, watching these videos of people saying, wow, it is okay to talk about this stuff. And they're going to learn about ways to cope with it. And once we start peeling that onion with these videos, then we're in hopes that they're going to reach out because the video will have links to it of different resource partners that cover that exact thing that they're looking for. And having it discreetly on there is going to help peel that onion to where when they're ready for it, they can reach out to us and we can get them to that next level. If they're feel up to, okay, maybe I'm ready to go to a mental health conference with you guys. That's great. Grab your loved one. Let's get you a plane ticket and we'll meet you there. And we're just going to meet you at the conference. We're just going to walk alongside of you. When we go to these conferences, we set up a resource table, but we also set up our portable studios with all of our cameras and lights because I've got a bunch of first responders that are already at a mental health conference, and I've got all the resources that are at the first responder conference. We just pull them into our studio that we have set up on the side, and we just make videos with them, start recording it. Um, so yeah, we also want, like I said, it's not just videos. It's people reaching out and traveling with us to these mental health symposiums and taking some ER trips, equip and restore. That's kind of our number one mission here at 1042 Project is to equip the first responders and to restore the ones that are already damaged. Because if we can equip the young officers and the young firefighters and nurses coming in, if we can equip them to where they don't have to go down that path that I did, and we can save their careers or save their suicides, we have to get them when they first come into our field of work. If we can do that and equip them, man, they're going to have a lot better. They're going to have a lot better chance to make it through their career and to make it through life and to live a healthy life. And that's what we're shooting for. We just want to give people their life back because I gave up on my life for 7 years. I wasn't living life, and now I got it back, and I want to share that joy. I want other people to be set free and to start breaking some of those chains. And we're just trying to give them a platform to do that. So if you're a first responder or a resource partner, reach out to us. You go to our website. We'll love to give you a call or email back and connect with you and let us know how we can be a resource or how you can be a resource to our first responders. And we'll get you put up on our website and plan a time to come make a video with you.
The website, you said you're getting a new one. Is the 1042project.org not going to be the name anymore?
Yeah, I should probably rephrase that. So we're just having our website redesigned. It's going to be the same name, the same everything, but we don't have the video categories in there. If you go to if you scroll down and go to Studio 42, you can see some of the videos that are in there. But the new website will have a video library where you'll be able to just click on categories. Yeah, if you click on the
Okay.
studio, yeah.
It won't actually let me click on anything here. Oh, browse resource, maybe?
Maybe I don't know.
Let's see.
There you go.
Ah, there you go. Yeah.
So we're just going
So,
to revamp. So yeah, it'll still be 1042project.org. That'll never change. We're just going to redo it, and then once we have the app up, we'll post it all up on there. People can start downloading it and watching our videos from the app directly.
okay, so in your videos, is it going to be just testimonials? Is it going to be educational? Like,
Yes,
what do the videos instill?
yes, all of the above. There's going to be several different categories, but a lot of it is first responders just telling their stories and their journey and their path to recovery. Because I think that's very powerful for people to hear that there is hope, no matter how bad, how far down you are, there is hope. So there's going to be a lot of those documentary style, telling people stories through documentary style videos, and then we're also going to have where we're making videos with resource partners. So there'll be educational ones, training ones. When we were in Boston, we did one with a first responder, and he had an alcohol problem, and so that one was really focused on alcohol and how he got himself through that. And and so yeah, it's educational, it's storytelling, it's basically anything we can do to help smash the stigma that's wrapped around mental health.
How long do the videos typically go?
You know, humans have an attention span of a frog. Um, so I would like to have them 2 minutes long, but, it's kinda hard to fit in the stuff that we talk about in 2 minutes. So generally between the whole videos, a lot of them are between 10 and 20 minutes, 30 minutes, but we're editing them and sending them out in segments just because of
Okay.
that reason. So we'll probably break them down into 5-minute segments. It just depends on the clips.
Okay. I'm just trying to give people a time frame so they can expect, if they,
Yeah.
oh, I'm going to go check out that video. And then they see it's like my podcast and like 3 hours, screw that,
Yeah. No, they're very,
versus,
very short, short
okay.
and to the point, and, like I said, we release them in segments just so we can get all the information across, but not make people have to take an hour out of their day, and they can watch whatever segment they want when they finally have the time to watch it.
Okay.
But
Makes
yeah, just
sense.
short, quick stories to just get some hope, get some education. If somebody's ready to take their life, obviously we want them to call 988. But just to let them come and watch videos of other first responders that are struggling with the exact same thing there, I think it'll be powerful. It already is powerful. It's already
Yeah, I agree.
when we
I
sit down
think
and make
you guys,
videos with people, it's powerful, and just seeing the light in their eyes come to life as they get to tell their story and talk about what they do, it's pretty neat.
I like it, brother. Well, is there anything that we haven't hit on that you want to hit on?
No, not really. Just go to our website, 1042project.org. We also have our YouTube channel that has all of our videos posted on it, which is 1042 Project. And my wife is working and running the social media. And next week, she's going to really get after and start launching a lot of our TikToks and other stuff like that. Well, basically, we're already on every media platform that's out there. Just the contents will finally start rolling out because September was our rollout date. So that'll get up and going next week. So you can follow us on all the social medias, 1042 Project, and watch videos on there or be able to go to the app or the website.
All right. Sounds good, brother. Well, I appreciate y'all coming on, uh, working our technical difficulties out together. That was
You
fun.
got it,
So,
bud.
but I wish y'all the best of luck,
Yeah.
and
Do
I
you have
got
anything
nothing.
do you want to, what would you tell the first responders at home right now, their spouses? What would you tell them?
The first responders or the
The
spouse?
spouses. What
The
would you tell them right
spouse?
now? Sign off on that.
I would just say to just to have hope, I guess. Honestly, like I understand that a lot of symptoms of PTSD and trauma present themselves in very difficult ways. So just be understanding that your spouse is, still the great person that you fell in love with, the amazing person that you love, and it's just a matter of getting on the same page with communicating. Again, like we were talking about earlier, perspective matters a whole lot, and just being really intentional about drawing close to each other, and your relationship can be a great thing. It is possible.
I
Absolutely.
like that. I like it. All right, guys. It's fun having you. I appreciate you being on.
Yeah,
All right.
thanks for
Thank you. We
having
appreciate it,
us.
Eric.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by HRH Combat Arms. They can turn your vision into reality. They specialize in gunsmithing and Cerakoting. Your Cerakote specialist is Air Force veteran and retired police sergeant Paul Ware, aka the Sarge. He can Cerakote your firearms, auto parts, tools, even your sports equipment. This veteran-owned business is located at 5025 Saunders Suite 103, Fort Worth, Texas 76119. You can call them at 682-304-0363, and you can find them online at www.hrhcombatarms.com. That's www.hrhcombatarms.com.